somehow. So that also, was one of the factors. But nevertheless, let's start with today's session about the glories of Purushottama Maas. Let me share my screen. Okay, no, it's not Sunday, it's Saturday, Friday. Anyway, the glories of Purushottama Maas, and this session is dedicated to His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, the founder Acharya of Worldwide Hare Krishna Movement. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. We will do is the context for today to understand this Kartik month, this Purushottama Maas. I thought it's a very nice song which is written by Bhaktivinoda Thakur as part of Sharanagati, kind of sets the mood. So I'll just play that for a while and then we will get into the context part. Okay, let me share. Sorry.
বিদ্যার বিলাসে কাটাইনু কাল পরম সাহসে আমি বিদ্যার বিলাসে কাটাইনু কাল পরম সাহসে আমি তোমার চরণ না ভজিনু কভু তোমার চরণ না ভজিনু কভু এখনো শরণ তুমি এখনো শরণ তুমি বিদ্যার বিলাসে কাটাইনু কাল পরম সাহসে আমি পড়িতে পড়িতে ভরসা বাড়িল জ্ঞানে গতি হবে মানি পড়িতে পড়িতে ভরসা বাড়িল জ্ঞানে গতি হবে মানি সে আশা বিফল সে জ্ঞান দুর্বল সে আশা বিফল সে জ্ঞান দুর্বল সে জ্ঞান অজ্ঞান জানি সে জ্ঞান অজ্ঞান জানি বিদ্যার বিলাসে কাটাইনু কাল পরম সাহসে আমি জড় বিদ্যা যত মায়ার বৈভব তোমার ভজনে বাধা জড় বিদ্যা যত মায়ার বৈভব তোমার ভজনে বাধা মোহ জনমিয়া অনিত্য সংসারে মোহ জনমিয়া অনিত্য সংসারে জীবকে করয় গাধা, জীবকে করয় গাধা। সেই গাধা হয়ে সংসারের বোঝা বহিনু কনেক কাল, সেই গাধা হয়ে সংসারের বোঝা বহিনু অনেক কাল। বার্ধক্যে এখন শক্তির অভাবে, বার্ধক্যে এখন শক্তির অভাবে কিছু নাহি লাগে ভালো, কিছু নাহি লাগে ভালো। বিদ্যার বিলাসে কাটাইনু কাল পরম সাহসে আমি। জীবন যাতনা হইল এখন, সে বিদ্যা অবিদ্যা ভেল। জীবন যাতনা হইল এখন, সে বিদ্যা অবিদ্যা ভেল। অবিদ্যার জ্বালা ঘটিল বিষম, অবিদ্যার জ্বালা ঘটিল বিষম। সে বিদ্যা হইল শেল, সে বিদ্যা হইল শেল। তোমার চরণ বিনা কিছু ধন সংসারে না আছে আর। তোমার চরণ বিনা কিছু ধন সংসারে না আছে আর। ভকতি বিনোদ জড় বিদ্যা ছাড়ি তুয়া পদে করে সার। ভকতি বিনোদ জড় বিদ্যা ছাড়ি তুয়া পদে করে সার, তুয়া পদে করে সার। বিদ্যার বিলাসে কাটাইনু কাল পরম সাহসে আমি। বিদ্যার বিলাসে কাটাইনু কাল পরম সাহসে আমি। তোমার চরণ না ভজিনু কভু, তোমার চরণ না ভজিনু কভু, এখনো শরণ তুমি, এখনো শরণ তুমি। বিদ্যার বিলাসে কাটাইনু কাল পরম সাহসে।
So this beautiful song is actually written by Bhaktivinoda Thakur, is the basis for today's discussion. Interestingly, this song, which is written by him, if you see the first few lines of this, is saying, Vidyara Vilase Katainu Kala Parama Sahase Ami. Tumara charana na bhajinu kabho, ekhono sarana tumi. So with great enthusiasm, I spent my time in the pleasures of mundane learning and never worshipped your lotus feet. That is what actually the mood of all these acharyas when they write. It is not that Acharya Bhaktivinoda Thakur has spent his life like that. It is for all of us to see Vidyara Vilase. Because of this great enthusiasm, I have spent my life in the pleasures of mundane learning and never worshipped your lotus feet. Oh Lord, now you are my only shelter. And the next line where, he says, reading on and on, my hopes grew and grew, for I considered the acquisition of material knowledge to be life's true goal. How fruitless those hopes turned out to be, for all my knowledge proved feeble. Now I know that all such erudition is actually pure ignorance. And this whole, the meanings were displayed there. You can definitely take a look at this verse, but the whole point is this material knowledge covers our vision, gives us a false hope, gives us a false conviction, a confidence. I can enjoy my life. And very sadly, life goes out of our control, or it comes to an end abruptly. So this Kartik month, the whole mood is, what we can learn from this significant month, which comes once in a 3 year, is very nicely summed up in this particular song by Bhakti Vinod Thakur, which we just heard. So let's proceed. I just want to show you two wonderful slides here. Pay attention to this. We will come back to this. So there is one slide, this one. You want to make out anything out of it, you can make out. And the other slide is this. So what is it? What is the significance of this? Some of the times, the pictorial depiction helps one remember the concepts for a longer time. So just remember these two pictures. We will come to the end of, towards the end of the presentation, we'll come back to this slide and see what they are trying to say. So what is Adhika Maas, or what is this Purushottama Maas? Actually, we have a very complex galaxy. Sometimes some take for granted. We don't pay enough attention. Of course, our Puranas, our Vedic literature, they give very accurate description of what this is, what is the significance, and what is the importance of this. But even from a scientific point of view, because we all have a scientific temper, a scientific temperament, if you see here, the sun is here, and there is an axis for the Earth to rotate around the sun. How long it takes for the Earth to rotate around the sun, Ankit?
Sorry, Prabhuji.
How long it takes for Earth to rotate around sun?
365 days, 1 year.
Yes, it is. So, yeah, sometimes, we are so lost. Something is going to come, something. There's nothing. It's a fact, simple thing which we have all learned in our school days. It takes 1 year for the Earth to rotate from this point again to come back again to the same point. It takes 1 year. And in 1 year, we have 12 months. So there is a calendar which we all follow, January, February, March, April. That's called the solar calendar, which is based on the movement of Earth around the sun. So it's called solar. But our, traditionally in the Vedic literature, they follow something called lunar calendar. Now, apart from the Earth rotating around the sun, there is also the moon which is rotating around the Earth. So you see, moon is rotating around the Earth, and together as a system, like moon and Earth, also going around sun, right? So anybody knows how long it takes for moon to complete its rotation of Earth? Somebody has put it in the chat. 24 hours for moon to complete a rotation of Earth? No.
15 days, Prabhu.
15 days? No.
15
The moon
plus.
takes about 29.53 days to revolve around the Earth.
Yeah.
So that is a little less than, it's 29.53059 days. So when you add this 12 lunar months, then the year will have 354.36708 days. So it is not exactly 30, so it is not 365 days. It is 29.53059 multiplied by 12. It leads to 354.36708 days. While solar year is about 365 days, as Ankit said, taking some help. So to adjust the lunar months to solar year, lunar calendar adds one extra month every third year. So if you see, there is a difference in 354 and 365, roughly 11 days. It's a little less than 11 days. So this difference of 11 days, which comes because of the rotation of Earth and Moon, and the difference to reconcile that, there is this extra month which is added up, which is called Adhika Maas. That is from the scientific understanding point of view. But interestingly, our Padma Purana, which is also often quoted by Prabhupada at various places, states that, and we know that this months that we have are named differently. Like we know it is. Anybody knows what are the names of our Hindu calendar? What are the names of the months? Lunar calendar, like what are the months? Like we say January, February, March. What are the lunar calendar months as per the lunar calendar?
Chaitra, Jyeshta, Ashad, Shravan.
Yes. So those months also have another name based on the Devata who's the presiding deity or who's in control of that particular month. Every month has one Devata. It is a Kartik month. So like that, all the months have one Devata who's in control of that particular month. So in case of Adhika Maas, or in case of this Mala Maas, when this month was born, usually our Vedic literatures consider months and rivers to be in the female, it is thrilling. So there was nobody who was ready to take ownership of her. There was nobody who was interested to take shelter, to give her shelter. She was abandoned. She was not owned. She was neglected. And since nobody wanted to own that, Mala Maas became very dejected. Interestingly, if you see in every month, there are certain periods which are considered to be auspicious, and certain time or certain periods or certain days are considered to be inauspicious. In the month, there is a movement of the sun. Based on that, there is a day which is called Sankranti, which is considered to be auspicious. Even though we are all Krishna conscious, we also do some calculations and ask, when is the auspicious day? When is the inauspicious day where we know we are not supposed to do things? But since in the case of this extra month, no demigods wanted to give her shelter, and neither sun and the moon entered, so it became completely abandoned, and it decided to take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. So interestingly, Mala Masa is considered to be very auspicious. The reason being, not that it is an extra month which is coming after 3 years, not because it has got some extra 30 days, so it is becoming auspicious. No, it is only because of the saintly conduct of Mala Maas that she decided to take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It decided to take shelter of Vishnu, and Vishnu takes her to Goloka Vrindavan to have the darshan of Purushottama, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. And that is how the name, and Purushottama, the Lord Krishna himself says, okay, you don't need to go to any other demigods because I give you shelter now. And today onwards, you will be known as Purushottama month. Now, very interestingly, Bhagavatam talks about whose shelter we should take. Whose shelter can we take? And it's a very interesting verse which comes in the 6th canto, 9th chapter, 25th verse. Ya eka isho nijamaya sasrajya yenanusrajama viswam vayam na yashyapi purah samahitah pasyama lingam prithagesha maninaha. This verse is spoken by the demigods. The demigods are praying, Ya eka isho nijamaya naha sasrajya. The word Sashraja means to create. It is usually meant, any kind of creation that is happening. So the demigods are telling, actually, you are the only one, O Lord, who created us. Ya Eka Isho, you are the Supreme Lord, Isho, controller. Nijamaya na Sasraja, you created us by your potency. And after that, after you have created us based on your potency, now we are doing Yenanu Shrajama Viswam. Now we are doing the further creation of this Viswam, secondary creation. Viswam Anushrajama. We are doing secondary creation. Yet Vayam na yasyapi purah samahita pasyama lingam prithavishamanina. Still, we are not able to see you as the creator, as the Lord, for the following two reasons. So they are saying, you have created us. Oh Lord, you created us. We know that. You have created us based on your Nijamaya, based on your external energy. And after that, we are creating, we are doing the secondary creation. Yet we are not able to see you. Something similar to our position also. The Lord is also situated in our heart as Paramatma. Yet we are not able to see him. And very interestingly, what are the two reasons why the demigods are not able to see the Supreme Personality of Godhead is mentioned here. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, who created us by his external potency and by whose mercy we expand the creation of the universe, is always situated before us as the Super Soul. But we cannot see his form. We are unable to see him because all of us think that we are separate and independent gods. You see, the G is here, small g. Pashyama lingam prithagishamanina. Because prithag, we are separate from him, ishamanina, and we are considering ourselves to be God. The moment we are doing that, we are not able to see the Lord, who's the original creator and who's also situated in our heart. We cannot see his form. That's exactly what in the Saranagati prayer, where Bhaktivinoda Thakur is praying, Vidyara Vilase. Vidyara Vilasa, because of this material knowledge, which is giving us so much of confidence, and we are so puffed up that we forget to surrender to the Lord. So here, Adhika Maas, or known as, which is also, by all this, Karmakandi people who are doing all these rituals and all, they say this is Mala Maas. Mala means it is inauspicious. This month is very inauspicious because nobody to give shelter to this month. But actually, it is the greatest fortune of this Mala Maas that the Supreme Lord himself gave shelter, and it became Purushottama Maas, the most auspicious month. Any activity that we do in this month is very, very auspicious. So then one may wonder, oh, Prabhu, we didn't know, now we have to wait for 3 years. Not really. What is the essence? And the essence is something, as I said, those two pictures which I showed, we will come back to that. But remember that no demigods is, they can give control, and there is no point taking control or shelter of this demigods because they themselves are praying that we are born of the external energy of the Lord, yet we don't see Krishna as the supreme creator because of these two things. Prathag Ishamanina. So, very interestingly, this mood of Adhika Maas, or this extra month, or this Purushottama month, is depicted in few of the characters of in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And the first one is Gajendra. Very, very nicely, this whole episode is summed up in Gajendra's mood and prayers. Let's see that. There are these two verses which comes in the 8th canto, 2nd chapter, 31st and 32nd verse. Very beautiful verse, very amazing verse. Itham Gajendra sayadapa sankatam pranasya dehi vivaso yadrachaya aparayannatma vimokshane chiram dadhyam imam buddhim athabhyapadyata namami me gyataya aturam gajaha kutah karniya prabhavanti mochitum grahena pasena vidhaturabrato apiyaham chatam yami paramparayanam. There is a word used here called paramparayanam. So Gajendra in the whole series of prayers never addressed the Lord as Krishna, Vishnu, or any of the names of the Lord. But these are all mostly, the supreme absolute truth, or something like that. Param Parayanam. He's addressing the Lord as Param Parayanam, the ultimate shelter, the Lord who can give us ultimate shelter. To that Lord I am surrendering. So the beauty of these prayers, when we see them closely, now here the first one, Itham Gajendra sa yadapa sankatam pranasya dehi ivasva yadrichaya aparayannatma vimokshane chiram dadhyam imam buddhim athabhyapadyata. You see the translation, even if you don't understand the Sanskrit, don't worry about it, because the meaning and the mood of Gajendra is so nice and so important. When the king of the elephants saw that he was under the clutches of the crocodile, Itham Gajendra sa yadapa sankatam. There is a sankata he saw. It's a very, the word sankata is translated by Prabhupada as a dangerous position. So when Gajendra saw that, king of the elephants saw that he was under the clutches of the crocodile by the will of providence. So this word is a very important thing. It is not by somebody's arrangement. It is not that Gajendra knew and wanted to just have some fun and enter into that. By the will of providence. Sometimes on some situations we very hardly have any control. Some people we don't want, but we end up working with them. Some people we want to avoid, but somehow they are brought into our lives. Be it our work situation, be it our family, somewhere there are things which happens beyond our control. So when the king of the elephants saw that he was under the clutches of the crocodile by the will of providence. Actually, if you see the prayer, let me show this picture to you first. See, this is the prayer. I mean, if you see, this is the picture of this Gajendra Moksha. You would have seen this. But this picture is so beautifully drawn by our devotees of Srila Prabhupada based on his direction. You see Gajendra, the moment when he was entering into the lake, it is in the Trikuta forest, beautiful lake surrounded by all nice, wonderful trees. The mood in which he was entering into that lake was out of, just sheer, this is meant for my enjoyment. I am the controller and I am the enjoyer. Let me go and enter into this and see how I can nicely enjoy. That was the mood. That was the mood in which Gajendra entered. Not just alone. Gajendra was surrounded by his wives, by his kinsmen, by his followers, because he was the king. Everybody, and he was very mighty. Let me show my might. Let me show how powerful I am. And that's the mood in which he entered into this material ocean. And very beautifully, Prabhupada actually mentions when he entered and he was caught by this crocodile. Crocodile is considered to be the network of illusion. This is considered to be a network of illusion. So when living entity like all of us, when we enter into this material world with a mood to enjoy, with a mood to control, with a mood to just show display our pride, our might, our strength, then we are caught by the network of illusion. That's exactly what happened to Gajendra. And if you see in this is a very scenic place. This didn't happen in this material world. It happened in a heavenly planet. And when it happened, how this situation is similar to Adhika Maas. I'm just not simply trying to bring something and trying to make exactly similar. You see, when Gajendra, now he's caught. So if you see very closely to the picture, the right front leg of Gajendra is caught by the crocodile. Right. So when that has happened, now sometimes some of our bodily parts, we take it for granted. We think, yeah, it's there. Something is doing something. Only when that there is some disturbance, something happens, we realize, oh my God, how critical each and every part of our body is. How nicely the Lord has created this human body for a particular purpose. Right leg of the elephant is considered to be very strong of all his bodily parts, and it was caught. And when it was caught, it is not that Gajendra could immediately realize or understand the sankata or the vipada or the dangerous position that he's in. He thought it is after all a crocodile, and I'm so powerful and so mighty. So he used his left leg. So right leg is caught. So he used his left leg to just push that crocodile away. But he could not do it. He had tremendous faith and confidence and conviction in his own strength and might. But when he tried, not just in one leg, with all possible ways, this way, that way, nothing happened. Then, seeing his plight, his other kinsmen, followers, they also came and they started trying to help him, trying to rescue him from this danger. They also could not do it. His wives, he had many wives, they were also crying, "Oh, our husband, what to do? Let's all go and help." They also went together and tried to help Gajendra to, rescue him from this danger. Small little children, the baby elephants, they also tried. They also failed. And when they failed, they are seeing that the crocodile is not leaving, and they can't wait there eternally. There are other things to be done, and the wives have to go and take care of the children. One after another, everybody rejected him. Everybody left him in that situation. You see, in life, one thing is to get some scolding or insult from someone, but another thing is to get neglected and being rejected by some people. That is worse than this. Like Adhika Maas, who was rejected by all the demigods, the situation of Gajendra was similar, where all his relatives, his kinsmen left him to die. Nothing else could be done. Interestingly, what Gajendra did and how did he do that? And that's where all this, see, the whole point is, it's not I'm going to learn something new and then I'll be enlightened. We forget this in the next 2-3 days. We will be busy with our own life and we will be doing something else. But important to learn the lessons which this important incidents in Bhagavatam teaches. Let's see the first prayer that I was reading. So the prayer, he is saying that when the king of the elephants saw that he was under the clutches of the crocodile, by the will of providence, sometimes Lord puts us in those kind of a situation. And being embodied and circumstantially helpless, pranasya dehi, all of us are embodied. All of us have accepted this body without any choice. This body is given. So being embodied, since we are embodied, and we are circumstantially helpless because we are tiny living entities. We don't have control of anything. We were seeing this earlier in one of the verses. Hardly we have control. So circumstantially, in many places, we feel helpless. Could not save himself from danger. He was extremely afraid of being killed. He became fearful. Aparayanatma vimokshane chiram. He became so fearful. This condition, this emotion of fear is also experienced by Mother Devaki when she was imprisoned by Kamsa. Devaki was very much fearful of Kamsa, and Prabhupada in the purport mentions that Kamsa actually material association, the material nature. A devotee should always be fearful of coming in, this material association. It can very well drag us. It can pull us, can keep us entangled, can keep us under its force. Very difficult to come out. Daiviyasha gunamaya mamamaya duratyaya. Mameva ye prapadyante maya metam tarantite. Not easy at all. Not at all. And that fear is necessary for one to develop that kind of surrender. Otherwise, it will not come. It's not that easy. So he was extremely afraid of being killed. Then he consequently thought for a long time. Here, there is a beauty of Bhagavatam, which one can only see, and when you see and read this some continuously or for a repeated number of times, you will see the beauty. If you see, he consequently thought for a long time, is what the translation is saying. But if you look at the word-to-word meaning, there is no such word which says that he thought for a long time. Prabhupada, actually, the word which is used for thought for a long time is dadhyav. Dadhyav. You see this word? But the word, if you see the word-to-word meaning, Prabhupada is writing, began to think seriously. began to think seriously. So if he consequently thought for a long time, all this Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita that we are reading, it is not just, we have to read for some time and close the book and okay, ho gaya, chalo, let's do our thing. Start karo, project khatam hua tha, and then again you get going. Start from where you left. No, it needs to be thought for a long time. Only when a person thinks for a long time can he become serious. He began to think seriously. Serious thinking is a byproduct of thinking for a long time. There was one devotee who always used to mention the difference between a serious devotee and not so serious devotee is just about this 5 minutes. When the class is over, the serious devotee thinks for the 5 minutes, what are the lessons taught? What are the lessons I can learn from this and apply? And not so serious devotee immediately gets into his own work, his own world, his own thinking. It's just a matter of saying Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, start ho gaya, apna life khatam ho gaya, mind is turned off. Seriously, he began to think seriously, consequently thought for a long time, and finally reached the following decision: Athabhyapadyata. Finally he come to this conclusion, this decision. What is the decision that he came to? That is also very nicely explained in the next verse. Namam ime gyataya aturam gajaha kutah karanyah prabhavanti muchitum grahena pasena vidhatura abrato apiyaham chatam yami paramparayana. Very, very beautiful verse, actually. Very. So he's saying the other elephants, the other elephants who are my friends and relatives could not rescue me from this danger. Na mam ime gyataya aturam gajaha. Gyantavya is all my friends and relatives. Aturam, in my distress, in my danger, nobody could rescue me. What then to speak of my wives? Karanya. Karanya is referring to my wives. They cannot do anything. It is by the will of providence that I have been attacked by this crocodile, and therefore I shall take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is always the shelter of everyone. Grahena pasena vidhatura brato pichaham chitam yami paramparayanam, who is always the shelter of all shelter, who is the shelter of everyone. I shall take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is always the shelter of everyone, even of great personalities. So he came to this conclusion because he thought for a long time. Imagine the situation. You are caught in that kind of a situation. Nobody, you are being abandoned. You are just dejected and rejected. And he's thinking. Similar thing happens in the case of Pingala, the prostitute, which also is mentioned in Bhagavatam in the 11th canto, where she was always waiting for someone to come, and then she will satisfy him. And that's how she used to think that I can be happy by satisfying somebody else. But one day when, as the time passed by and she became a little old, one day when nobody was coming to her place, she thought to herself and realized that Santam Samipe Ramanam Rati Pradam, that I am looking for someone else to satisfy, to get my pleasure. Actually, the person who can give me satisfaction, give me pleasure, give me eternal bliss is always residing in my heart. Santam Samipe Ramanam Rati Pradam. Santam Samipe Ramanam. Samipe means in my heart, he is residing. Without realizing this, I'm trying to do something to get some pleasure. So same thing here also. He realized there is nobody else who can help me in my situation, and he surrendered to Paramparayanam. He took shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So the mood of this Adhika Maas, or the significance of the importance of this Adhika Maas, is to come to this principle of surrender, which is the song that we read at the beginning, Sharanagati. Now, to understand what this Saranagati is all about, or what is this mood of shelter is all about, it is very nicely explained in a book written by Sanatana Goswami, which is called Hari Vilas. But that is also quoted by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the Madhya Lila, 22nd chapter, 100th verse. What are the definition of Saranagati? What does Saranagati mean? Very interesting. You should read this verse very carefully, at least in this month of what is this? Adhika Maas, Purushottama Maas. So this verse comes in the Madhya Lila, 22nd chapter, 100 verse. It says, Anukulyasya sankalpaha, pratikulyasya varjanam, Rakshishyati iti vishwaso goptrutve varnam tatha atmanikshepa karpanye sadvidha sharanagatihi. What is the translation of this? Let's see the translation. Very interesting translation. The translation of this verse goes like this. The 6 divisions of surrender are the acceptance of those things favorable to devotional service, the rejection of unfavorable things, the conviction that Krishna will give protection, the acceptance of the Lord as one's guardian or master, full self-surrender and humility. So if you didn't get what it is, read the purport, but let's see the word-to-word meaning. Each word is very, very powerful. Prabhupada is writing Anukulyasya. Of anything that assists devotional service to the Lord. In our life also, we need to ask ourselves. We are in relationships with so many people. We are in touch with so many people, situations, things. Are they helping me to advance in devotional service? Are those situations, people, things in my life conducive for practicing devotional life? If the answer is yes, Anukulyasya Sankalpa. Sankalpa means accepting. We do Sankalpa in important days like festivals. Anukulyasya Sankalpa. Please accept them because they are favorable for practicing devotional life. Pratikulyasya Varjanam. Pratikulyasya, as Prabhupada is saying, of anything that hinders devotional service. Same question again. People, place, situation, circumstances, things in our life which hinders devotional service is Varjanam. Varjanam is not partial rejection, not quarterly rejection, complete rejection. Pratikulyasya Varjanam, completely rejecting them. In the purport, if you see, Prabhupada actually says another word for this is renunciation. Renouncing things which are not favorable for our advancement in devotional service. This is surrender. This is the definition of surrender given. Then the third one is Rakshashiti iti Vishwasa. Rakshashiti means the Lord is going to protect me. Why the Lord is going to protect? Because there is a firm conviction that the devotee has. Vishwasa. Rakshashiti iti Vishwasa. So if there is a firm conviction by the devotee, because of that the Lord protects, not because of anything else. Do I have that conviction? Rakshasiti iti Vishwasa Goptrutve Varnam Tatha. Goptrutve, in being the guardian, like the father or husband, master or maintainer. Varnam, acceptance, Tatha. So the conviction that Krishna will give protection. Sorry, the next one, the acceptance of Lord as one's guardian or master. Goptrutve Varnam Tatha. Accepting the Lord as guardian or master. And then the fifth one, actually the purport also Prabhupada writes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and he explains each of this. The fifth one is very, very nice, which is called Atma Nikshepa, and Prabhupada is translating that as full self-surrender. Now, if you don't know what full self-surrender is, if you go to the preface of Chaitanya Charitamrita, and there also Prabhupada writes the 6 principles, and there he explains this. Full self-surrender means have no interest separate from the interest of the Lord. Have no interest separate from the interest of the Lord. The will of providence. In all these examples of Bhagavatam that we are seeing, be it Parikshit Maharaj, who was cursed to die in 7 days, accepted this. The principle of acceptance, this is will of providence. This has happened in my life. Instead of blaming someone, instead of trying to find faults with someone, this is a situation which has been created by the Lord, accepting it, taking it as the will of the Lord, aligning oneself in that. Or be it, Narad Muni, who was, when he was a boy and his mother was bitten by the snake, or Gajendra, who was, caught by this crocodile, or Pingala, any one of them, they didn't waste time. Of course, Gajendra fought for 1,000 years before he came to that kind of a conclusion. But Adhika Maas or Parikshit Maharaj, immediately they took shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Self-surrender means to have no interest separate from the interest of the Lord. And the last one is karpanye. Karpanye is a very beautiful word. It is called humility, and Prabhupada has translated as meek and humble. Always feel oneself meek and humble. In Christianity also there is a sentence which comes, the abode of the Lord belongs to the meek and the humble. So by being meek and humble, one actually attracts the mercy of the Lord. Meek and humble doesn't mean that I go on saying that, oh, I've been, what to do, my life is just a curse, I've been so many times I've been put into this kind of things. Nothing, none of those. Whatever has happened to my life in whichever way the Lord has put me in that situation, because He's always in control of these things. Accepting that and aligning myself as per the Lord's direction. So these are the 6 principles of surrender, which is very, very important and very nicely given. We are just skipping through. What are some of the learnings from this episode of Kartik month? Because ultimately, as I was saying, that we should focus on these important episodes of Bhagavatam and take the essence, the Saram samudratya. What is the key? What is the learning from this? So the learnings from this is how Adhika Maas came to this conclusion that I will not take shelter of any devata. I will only take shelter of Param Parayanam, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the ultimate shelter of everyone. And how, because of that, how much of mercy Adhika Maas got, that every day in this month is considered to be auspicious. But the most important thing, I think Panduranga Prabhu in one of his sessions in the last week, he was referring to this incident of Parikshit Maharaj, trying to punish this Kali Purusha over here, if you see. And you can see that there is a bull whose 3 legs are cut, and there is a cow. And this bull represents dharma. So when Parikshit Maharaj saw the bull in this helpless condition, he is asking, who did this to you? How did you come to this kind of a situation? So that point in time, neither the bull nor the cow are pointing out to the Kali Purusha. They're not pointing out. They're quiet. So just tell me one, just point out finger, who has done this, and I'll take care of it. Of course, Parikshit Maharaj knew it, but they didn't point out. In our life also, sometimes, we get into this mood of finding who's the person because of whom this has happened, or because of him, because of this, because of that, forgetting that actually there is a will of the providence because of which I've been put into some kind of a situation. I'm made to go through this. At that point in time, very important in our life is to learn the principle of surrender. Learn to depend on the Supreme Lord. Learn to align our desire and our action to the will of the Lord. If we do that, actually we don't need to even wait for Adhika Masa to come. Every day, if there is a time which is available and am I wasting that, then it is as good as wasting the Adhika Maas. It is not like a yogi or a devotee like that, will wait, after 3 years again it is going to come and that time only I'll do. No. Every single moment I have a chance, I have an opportunity to engage in Krishna's service. If I don't do that, if I waste that, this is as good as wasting the Adhika Maas. So instead of blaming, instead of finding faults, it is very important to engage in devotional service, and that will cleanse not just the external place and surroundings, also our internal heart. Jagat Pavitram, there is a verse in 1.5.14 in Bhagavatam. Jagat Pavitram Karyachit. So it will cleanse our heart. It will cleanse our heart of all misgivings. You see, in this Kali Yuga, we cannot get away from abandonment, rejection, frustration. These are bound to come. But what will protect us is these 2 verses from Bhagavad Gita. If you remember this verse from Bhagavad Gita, As I said, I talk about these two principles, but let me say this verse from Bhagavad Gita first, 18.57 and 58. Chetasa sarvakarmani mai sanyasya matparaha buddhi yogam upashritya matchitta satatam bhava. In all activities, just depend on me and work always under my protection. In such devotional service, be fully conscious of me. The important thing is to, in all activities, depend upon me. The dependence on the Lord leads to dedication. And from the dedication comes the consciousness. One becomes conscious of Krishna. The dedication will not come if you are not depending on the Lord. If we are depending on the Lord, then there is a dedication which comes. And from the dedication of a devotee, he becomes conscious of Krishna. In all activities, just depend upon me and always work under my protection. In such devotional service, be fully conscious of me. If you become conscious of Krishna, what happens? Matchitta sarva durgani matprasada tarishyati athachittum ahankaram nasoshyati vinakshasi. If you become conscious of me, you will pass over all the obstacles of conditional life by my grace. If, however, you do not work in such consciousness, but act through false ego, not hearing me, you will be lost. So very important to become conscious of Krishna, become engaged in his devotional service, because by his grace, so there is an endeavor part of ours and there is a grace of the Lord. When we become dependent on Krishna, then we become dedicated, and by our dedication, we become conscious of Krishna, DDC. And when we become conscious of Krishna, then by Krishna's grace, we can cross over all the obstacles of our life. So the big concept which I had asked at the beginning, now I want to pause and ask you, what did you understand from this big concept? What is this one saying and what is this one saying? Wow. Silence is, yeah. Go ahead, whoever has meant.
So, what I understood from this is, Prabhuji, like everybody is engrossed in their materialistic, things on their own way. So somebody is like, one guy is going to the right side, one guy is going to the left side. So I think they have their own hankering for different things. That's why they are going towards that.
What about the other one?
Looks like they are Krishna conscious people, and they are going in a one path. They are following each other.
Actually, there is a fear of opening it like this, because our interpretation, our mind can lead us to so many these things that what you are trying to say ultimately will be lost. Of course, and it's a nice attempt. I'm not saying that you shouldn't try, but then the whole point is, the whole purpose of anybody. Okay, I think I saw Lakshminarayan Prabhu going unmuted. Want to try, Prabhu?
No, pretty much Ankit Prabhu tells us. But the first one, we are all trying with our own, feel that I have my energy, and we try, every individual try their own best with their own material energy and whatever they have, strengths. And the second one, it's a unity, a teamwork, who all the efforts together try and win. It's maybe in the material world or maybe so it's all as a team work together and achieve the goal.
Okay, so the point which I was trying to draw from these two slides is, how do we learn to align ourselves with Krishna's plan? Significant transformation in heart can happen when we accept. The word acceptance is a very important thing in our life. The more we try to retaliate, try to take control of things, try to be independent, try to do some things on our own, the more we get entangled, the more we get that Gajendra being caught by that crocodile, which is considered to be, by Prabhupada, his writing as material illusion. We get caught in this material illusion. So very important to understand the hand of Lord in our lives, and very important to understand, very important to learn to realize, to depend on Him, to become conscious of Him, and by His grace, we can overcome these obstacles of life in our lives. That is exactly what happened in the case of Adhika Maas. That is exactly what is happening in the case of Gajendra. That is exactly what is happening in the case of Pingala or anyone, or that is exactly what the prayers that we read from the demigods who are offering that prayers also is talking about that. So I'll stop here and see if you have any questions or comments.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
I just wanted to know, this Adhik Maas is this October month, or what is the starting point? And
So yes, that's, I think, okay. So I think you probably can get October, November, December. These are all the months, the solar calendar. As per, that's the English calendar that the calendar that we follow. That is
okay,
called lunar calendar. So I was asking the months, the lunar calendar. They
yeah,
exactly don't match with the solar calendar.
okay,
So there is this gap of about 11 days, which comes because of the rotation of moon around Earth and the rotation of Earth around Sun. It takes 365 days, and that takes about 354 days. So there is 11 days gap. And in every 3 months, it becomes an extra month in the lunar calendar. So that is called the Adhikam.
thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Nalo Pranam, Prabhu. Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna. Dandavat. Jai Shri Prabhupada.
Prabhuji, the question I have is like with respect when you are actually explaining about Gajendra and the Sharanagati of Gajendra to the Lord. So one understanding is that till that time Gajendra was actually endorsed in all the material activities, his enjoyment and things like that. And suddenly, after a long fight with crocodile, and really realizing his destitute position, then by the virtue of providence he was able, or by virtue of his previous karma, he was able to remember the Lord. Now if we can apply that to the present day situation, we see like a lot of people taking the shelter of the Lord because of the pandemic, and people are asking for tulsi malas, narsimha kavachas, and all. And on one point of a time, we see that they are remembering God at this point of time. Second thing is that Krishna says that artho jignaso artharthi, right? You can actually. But how do we understand, bro? Because till now, materially engrossed, even me, like I'm not differentiating me, but then even when something pandemic is coming, now I'll take shelter of God. So is this correct behavior? If not, how do we correct this?
Okay, good question. You see that those 4 categories that you mentioned, Artho, Artharthi, Jnani, and Jigyasu, one important common factor between them is they are all Sukirtina, Sukritina, which Krishna says. They are all pious people. Even though there are distressed, even though there are people who are searching after knowledge and are inquisitive and are looking for money, they need not come and take shelter of the Lord. Only when a person has got sufficient pious credit that he gets the intelligence to come and surrender to the Lord, even if it is pandemic. Not everybody comes and takes shelter of the Lord. Not that now there is a pandemic and the whole world is now coming and trying to become Krishna conscious. Not true. In our life only, we'll be seeing some people who will still be thinking, there's nothing. I can do this way. I can try this way. I'll go and I'll control. So they're all there. Now the difference between Gajendra, how he, of course, he fought for a long time, but he took shelter of the Lord. And us, or for that matter, anybody who's taking to the shelter like that, Artho, is that we may go back to our material life after the period of distress or after the distress in our life is over. So that is something which we have to be. So how does that change? How does that, a person who's coming to Krishna consciousness, how does he go to the next step? For that, if you see those 7.14, 15, those the verses where it is this section is coming, very important to have a pure devotee in our heart, in our life. The intervention of a pure devotee is required for us to remain fixed. Following his mission, following his words are very important. That is one. Second thing is, as I was trying to say in that verse when we were reading, that he thought for a long time, and Prabhupada is writing that he could think seriously. We also in our life we need to reflect, we need to think this for a long time. Anything, when we are reading, when we are hearing Bhagavatam class, it is not only meant for that particular time and then we forget about it. So as I said, there was one devotee who was telling that the difference between an advanced devotee or a person who's steady and who's not is that 5 minutes where he's trying to recollect what he heard or what he read after he finished hearing or reading. It's a very important thing. So that seriousness with which we take these instructions of the Lord or instructions about the Lord in Bhagavatam will take us to the next step. Does that help?
Absolutely, bro. So the takeaway point from me is that it's not just that you are surrendering to the God with respect to that particular moment of distress, but think, ponder on that, and continue to be in that Sharanagati bhava throughout, rather than just once I'm over it and I forget Lord and I'm again back to my material.
Yeah. So if you see those four things, those four categories of people you mentioned, they come. That's how their spiritual life begins. I mean, they come and take shelter of the Lord because of the pious credits that they have. They are classified into these four categories. But then to continue to sustain the principle of Saranagati is very important, because it is a choice you have to exercise every moment in your life. Anukulyasya sankalpa pratikulyasya varjanam. How do you develop this? How do you come to the finer aspect of becoming a devotee? How do you make progress? Is by remaining fixed in these instructions of Guru and the scriptures and in understanding. And it is all about the conduct. As I said, Mala Masa became Purushottama Maas not because it is an extra month added once in 3 years, because of it is saintly conduct. So similarly, in our situation of testing, when we are put into those situations, how are we depending on the Lord? How are we learning to accept those things which are seemingly not palatable, as the will of the Lord, and conduct ourselves? That is where the secret lies, to make us to go to the next level.
Thank you very much, bro. We have time. One more question, bro.
Yes.
So, in 6.9.25, you are explaining about demigods, seeing them, just asking for God, that they think that they are separated and independent gods, and that is the reason for their not able to surrender to the Lord.
Yeah.
So one thing that when actually listening to Bhagavatam or reading Bhagavatam, one thing that actually quizzes me is that Indra's position. Like, he is chastised by Lord Krishna during Govardhana time. He understood the supremacy of Lord Krishna, but again after few years, when Krishna actually asked for Parijata, he is against Krishna. How can we understand that? That he's a demigod. We should understand the position of Krishna, Vishnu. How do we understand it?
Yeah. So the two lessons that we can learn from this kind of incidents. One is, even though Indra is doing not just this one, maybe there are multiple times. He is, of course, this happens in different kalpas. Whether it is the same Indra or it's a different Indra, that's a different thing. But assuming that even if it is happening in the same kalpa and the same Indra is going through, there's one thing which we should remember or learn from this is, nobody is free from being illusioned by the external energy of the Lord, including Indra. So this idea of taking this granted, or this idea of being complacent, is a very, very dangerous thing. Very dangerous. So that's exactly, if you read this purports of this Gajendra prayer, as I was mentioning, when he entered into that lake, the idea was, I am the controller, and this lake is meant for my enjoyment. That's what is the material world. That's what is our attitude most of the times in material world. I am the controller. I have money, I have power, I have youth, I have got all these things. I am going to enjoy here with all my near and dear ones. That is exactly where the crocodile catches the elephant, which is called the mire of the illusion of material world. Whatever this translates, it's called the network of material illusion. We get caught up in that network of material illusion. First thing to remember or learn from this is that nobody, even if you are Indra, even if you are a devotee, of course they're still considered to be Sakama Bhakta, not Niskama. So they have some desires. Indra always wants to hold on to his position. They also get caught up in this Maya. What to speak of us? We should be careful. One. Second is, even though this happens in great personalities' lives like Indra, we should not belittle them. We should not treat them. Okay, this Indra is a foolish fellow. It's just in our mind. They are all still very powerful personalities. And Bhagavatam mentions that our different bodily parts are being controlled by different demigods. For example, this palm, if you slap someone, this palm actually is being controlled by Indra, by Indradev. So you can say that, well, Indra is not happy with you. That's why I'm slapping. I'm just telling him. So different bodily parts, like, your breathing, the different demigods are in control of that. Sometimes the person becomes paralyzed. So, there is some demigod who's not happy for that particular part and he gets paralyzed. They are given important responsibilities. They have reached to that position. We should have respect. But as that verse itself is saying, that they are created by the external energy of the Lord. And that is how, even if they are doing the Sasrajam Vishram, they're doing the secondary creation, but they are forgetful because they are considering themselves to be gods, and they're considering themselves to be separate from Krishna. In the purport, actually, if you see the first line, Prabhupada says, this is the reason why people are not able to understand the Lord in the heart. Because all of us are also like that. We are also considering ourselves to be gods with small g, and we are also considering separate from Krishna. So these two things are to be learned from this. Of course, these are given, otherwise, how do we learn to be careful and to remain vigilant in our life? Unless, some big personalities also is, falling into this trap. The tendency for us to take it for granted is very common. So,
yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
So the next 2 days, tomorrow and day after, we are going to read the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. That is called the Purushottama Yoga. Of course, those of you who were part of our Gita Yajna sessions, you would have heard that. But please read that chapter. Actually, Bhagavad Gita reading anyway is auspicious. But okay, Purushottam month has some special significance. Read the verses. I was thinking of chanting the verses, but I don't want to do that. We will take this chapter and understand. Very, very important chapter. Very nice chapter, actually. One of the trivia about this chapter is there is something called Trishloki Bhagavad Gita. Chatushloki Bhagavad Gita comes in the 10th chapter, but there is a Trishloki Bhagavad Gita, which comes in the 15th chapter. And Ramanujacharya used certain verses of 15th chapter to refute Mayavada. Any Mayavadis, anybody who says that Lord has no form and it merges and becomes one and Brahman, can easily be defeated by the verses of 15th chapter. Very, very interesting, powerful verses. That's why this is called Purushottama Yoga. So we will read that in tomorrow and day after, and that's the plan for this week.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I have one question actually.
Actually, you can ask.
Sorry?
I'm saying actually you can ask.
Okay. So, Prabhuji, for Lord Venkateshwara, Tirupati Balaji, right? So, do we have any pastime stories for
Oh,
Lord
yes. Yes, yes.
Yeah, I'm curious to know that actually, if we can cover that as well.
Sure, sure. We can do that some other time. Very wonderful descriptions are there, Srinivas.
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Okay, if no other question. No, yes, Chandraprabha.
Take care of yourself. Take rest.
Yeah, that's pretty good matter. I request everyone to come in front of your camera and raise your hands. We will chant once Hare Krishna Maha. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Hare
Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare,
Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare,
Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Srila Prabhupada ki,
Jai,
Purushottama Maas ki,
Jai.
Nitai Gaur Premanande,
Hare Hare Bol.
Hare Bol.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.